Good evening, everybody, and I want to thank everybody that's here tonight to meet with the Public Service Commission. All of you in the audience, I appreciate you being here. We're going to call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Play ball!
We'll call the roll. Costick, I'm here. Kennedy?
Here.
Schmidtke?
I am present, sir.
Stanko?
Here.
John Reilly is excused and absent this evening. Laura Zawada?
I'm here.
And David Nadeau? Here. So we have a quorum. And the next item is to approve tonight's agenda. So we have one addition to the agenda, and that is the installation of the primary clarifier to replace the old equipment in one of the primary clarifiers. If you recall, several months ago, we bought the pumps at about $150,000 because they were available. We bought them when they were available. And our engineers just bid out the contract to install in the primary clarifier. This is the unit in the subfloor of the wastewater treatment plant. So what we want to do is add that to item number C under action item 12. It would be a primary clarifier install contract, and Township Manager Derek will explain it. And we do have a handout on it in front of you, okay? So I would make a motion to approve tonight's agenda with the addition of item number C, which would be the primary clarifier rehabilitation bid award.
Support.
Been supported. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. So item number 5, we're going to not hold everybody up here. This is a presentation on our road recommendations, our road proposal that we submitted to the Township Board that will appear on the November 8th ballot. And I want to thank everybody for being here, and I want to just announce one thing. When we're done with that, we're going to answer all your questions. You don't have to leave. We have the whole agenda. We don't have an exciting meeting tonight, but you're welcome to stay. And so that's one thing. Some of you that may not know, but the Public Service Commission, our primary responsibility is utilities provided in the community. Number one, our water system. We run the water system. We do the water main repairs. We buy the water from Detroit. And it's delivered to us at our 2 bridges, or under our 2 bridges, and we run the water system. We also own the wastewater treatment plant on West River Road. Some people may not know where it is, but it's near the Free Bridge. We're also responsible for the refuse contract. So we have all the glorious things, including drainage and ditches, and we have a little bit of road money. There's a levy of 4/10 of a mil that was approved by the voters twice now, and what that does is supplement money we have available to do roadside mowing, dust control on our 7 miles of gravel roads, and additional snow removal when we have a big storm. And then we have about $100,000 a year, and that doesn't go far for road improvements, to do neighborhood street road improvements, concrete that's broken up, asphalt, intersections, and so forth. So those are our primary responsibilities. So also, we were given the responsibility by Township Supervisor Budney and the prior Township Supervisor, Brian, to come up with a recommendation on roads. And so we're going to make a brief presentation tonight, and I think we're going to have a slight 8-minute video, and then we're going to follow up with a PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll answer all your questions. That's the format. Derek, our Township Manager, is going to make the PowerPoint presentation. So with that, and I want to make sure everybody knows, we'll stay here as long and answer your questions as you have them, because this is an important issue to the community. So Derek, can you get the video on?
Yeah, as the chairman had mentioned, we just have a real short video that kind of highlights the road proposal. I'll go through our PowerPoint presentation as well. There is going to be some duplicate information, but I'll try to run through those areas that are duplicated between the PowerPoint presentation and the video. So, but we'll start with this.
which will be shown on Channel
Hello,
12.
and welcome to this public service announcement regarding our road millage. I'm Jim Budney, your township supervisor.
Hi, and I'm Bill Costick, Chairman of the DPS Commission.
And I'm Dave Nadeau, Township Treasurer and Board Liaison to the DPS Commission.
And I'm Derek Thiel, your Township Manager and DPS Director. As the supervisor had mentioned, we're going to be speaking to you today and providing you information about an upcoming ballot initiative, a millage request for road improvements, which will be on your November 8th general election ballot.
Both your Groseal Department of Public Services Commission and the Groseal Township Board have recommended that a road millage request be placed before the public. This request would be for 1.4 mills to be levied for 15 years. Funds used to exclusively resurface, fix, repair, and maintain Groseal Township roads throughout the township.
As we all know, many of the roads are in bad shape, thus the purpose for this millage request. We have reviewed concerns with previous millage requests regarding millage amounts, lack of voter turnout, and the false belief that Wayne County has the necessary resources to maintain and repair our roads and keep them in a condition we expect.
I'd like to make a point, an often misconception by taxpayers. It's important to note that resident property taxes paid to Wayne County do not fund road improvements or maintenance anywhere in the county, and not on Grosse Ile. Based on recent investments of over $15 million for the Parkway Bridge, $2,300,000 on the Mesa Island Bridge, and $2,800,000 on the West River Road Bridge, the DPS Commission believes it is unrealistic to assume that the county will be improving other Grosse Ile or primary or secondary roadways. The DPS Commission has studied proposed projects listed under the Wayne County's 2022 Top 100 Projects list. And beyond the possible resurfacing of Meridian Road, there are no road improvements listed for Grosse Ile in the next 4 years. Community investment is necessary, we believe, to achieve road conditions that meet the community's expectations.
The structure of this millage request has one goal: the affordability of property taxes to the taxpayer. We do not take millage requests lightly. This millage is designed to minimize impacts of overall millage levy in the township. Starting in 2025, Grosse Ile Township will realize significant reductions in millage levies associated with bonds from previous sewer-related work. With this millage request and the reduction in previous sanitary sewer-related work decreasing at the time this millage is levied, Grosse Ile Township will remain as having one of the lowest overall millage rates of any downriver communities.
If approved on November 8th, the first year's taxes would be levied with the December 1st, 2022 tax period and would raise approximately $915,000. In 2023, the Township Board would authorize a sale of a $6,500,000 bond issue. This request would be for 1.4 mills to be levied for 15 years, the proceeds of which would be used to meet the annual bond payments.
The following work is proposed for this road millage. In the summer of 2023, East River Road from Horse Mill to Manchester, and Bellevue from Meridian to East River Road. In the summer of 2024, East River Road south of Grow Road, West River Road north of Church Road, Ferry Road, Meridian to East River Road, Horse Mill, Meridian to Park Lane, and Park Lane, Church to Horse Mill, as well as South Point, Grow, and sections of East River that were previously chip sealed. These projects may be amended based on our ongoing discussions with Wayne County. We are always trying to get them to do our roads or to partner with us on road projects.
The county has also indicated they're planning on resurfacing Meridian Road between Groseal Parkway and Bridge Road throughout 2023 through 2025. This will be a scheduled improvement resurfacing across this 3-year period. This will all start after the replacement of the Meridian Road Bridge, which is scheduled for the spring of 2023.
Millage requests for roads failed in both 2015 and 2018. The last time the township levied such a millage was approximately 40 years ago. This millage resulted in the repair of many of the township's roads, which are now in poor condition and need to be replaced. During 2 years of development of this millage request, the DPS Commission has had monthly discussions on the road conditions, which included consultation with our township engineers, site visits, conversations with county, and discussions with township board members to address resident concerns that arose with the previous failed millage requests.
We'd like to invite the public to the DPS special public information meetings on September 13th and October 11th at 7 o'clock in the evening in the township boardroom. This will be televised live on cable TV, Comcast Channel 12, and WOW Channel 10.
I want to emphasize the purpose of this meeting is to explain in detail our proposal and answer any follow-up questions that citizens may have. The DPS Commission will still hold regularly scheduled meetings on September 13th and October 11th, but our meetings will focus on public information sessions. Hopefully, property taxpayers will attend.
As always, if residents have any questions regarding this millage request or other township services, they're more than welcome to contact Township Hall at 734-676-4422, extension 228, or contact me via email directly at Derek, D-E-R-E-K-T, @groseal.com.
Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you November 8th, Election Day.
So just so that the audience and the residents are aware, that video will be playing on the local public access. So if you didn't get enough of that the first time around, you have the opportunity to be able to view it again. So that will be going now, be on TV from now until the November election. So just really quickly, a little bit more information as it relates to the overall millage. First of all, the DPS Commission has been reviewing this proposal and putting this proposal together over the past 18 months. And obviously, we have talked about previous millage requests. This has actually been a combination of multiple years of efforts for a potential road millage, in that we took a look at a lot of the different millage requests that were put before the electorate in previous years and tried to determine what the shortcomings were of those millage requests and the reasons that the residents may or may not have voted for them or supported them. So we made adjustments to the overall millage amount. I believe in previous millage requests it was more than what we're currently asking for. In previous millage requests we also had combined both water and water and road work into the same millage request. Just focuses completely on roads. Also, I think that there was an understanding that maybe Wayne County would be stepping in to be able to solve a lot of these residential neighborhood road issues that we have within the community, and obviously our experience has been that that's not the case. And a good example of that is the work that has occurred between the previous millage requests and now, and even previous to that, are primarily focused on bridges and also some of our primary roads, whether it be West River Road, sections of that. Down on Park Lane, there's some work down there, which we partnered with the county to get some of that done. And then some work on East River Road, and now the proposed Meridian Road work that will be occurring over the next 3 years. As we went through this process, we had multiple conversations with the county, with our engineers, took a look at long-term planning that the county had as far as what roads they would be working on, and also what we could expect their participation to be in what roads they would be doing for us. So when we took a look at the project list that we wanted to accomplish, we focused in on those roads that the county was not and will not address. So that is where the project list came from, in addition to obviously those roads being in very poor condition and high priority as far as getting those repaired or replaced. Based upon their importance to the community, the traffic volumes, and also the condition. So the county is going to be doing work within the community over the next three to 4 years. The supervisor spoke at length about that last night at the Township Board meeting. The majority of that work is primarily focused on bridges. So over the next 3 to 4 years, Meridian Road Bridge will be replaced. They're proposing to replace Ferry Road Bridge. They're looking at Elba Island. I'm sorry, not Elba Island. Swan Island and Elba Island are the three that they're looking at. They've also submitted a request for funding for the Park Lane Bridge, so that will be in the hopper potentially depending upon that funding request and how that comes through. There is some proposed work that is going to take place over on East River Road within the upcoming weeks. We were able to work with the county to get that added on, but that is the balance of the work that will be occurring over the next 3 years, in addition to the Meridian Road project, which we've already discussed and you saw in the video. So in summary, it's primarily bridge work that's going to be ongoing between the bridges I mentioned and also the Parkway Bridge. And then some minor paving work that'll occur on Meridian and East River over the next 12 to 36 months. So, but we have had confirmation from the county that they will not be going into the neighborhoods without, some source of additional funding. But that hasn't been their plan and continues not to be. So. So what is proposed? Groseal Department of Public Services Commission and the Groseal Township Board recommended for the upcoming November 8th ballot a request to the electorate for a 1.4 mill levy. This would be levied for 15 years and would be used to fix, repair, and resurface Groseal Township roads. The desire that a primary priority for the DPS Commission was to try to make this millage request as affordable as possible. Obviously, we're all residents here. We're concerned about our overall millage levy. So in its design, we wanted to make sure that it fit in with the current overall millage levy within the township. So in order to do that, we scheduled the millage to take advantage of some reductions in the overall millage levy that we have within the township. That's going to be occurring over the next 3 to 5 years. And you heard a little bit about that in the video. We had some significant sewer improvements that took place about 20 years ago over at the wastewater treatment plant. The township had bonded for those improvements, which is basically a loan. Those loans are maturing and coming to the point where those will be paid off. And as a result, the millages that are necessary to fund those loan payments will end up dropping off. So the township does have some substantial items that we need to address. One is the wastewater treatment plant improvements, which went to the electorate on the August primary and was passed by the voters. In November, you're also going to see a fire millage of 0.75 mils. So when we looked at the roads proposal, we took into consideration all of those needs within the township to try to make sure that the design of this millage request fit within that total millage levy. So you'll see in 2022, we're at about 15.74 mils, and this is township millages. With the passing of the fire operations millage in November, should it pass, and the roads millage proposal of 1.4 mils, should it pass, we only see a slight uptick in the overall tax rate within the township for 2023 and 2024, up, what is it, about a little over a quarter of a mil, a third of a mil. Eventually, by 2025, as we see these reductions in the overall sewer millages that are illustrated by the chart here on the left, the bottom chart, you'll see that that millage rate eventually ends up going down. So I think one of the comments that was made by the DPS Commission as we were going through this was we need to make this as free as possible, basically result in as minimal amount of an increase in the overall taxes for the residents to make sure that they feel that their taxes and their tax rate is being considered in the overall design. So that was a priority, and I think we did our best to be able to try to provide these improvements to the residents with the most minimal overall increase in their taxable rate, which I think the chart illustrates that. A couple of questions or concerns that we had heard as we went through the development of this proposal. One of them was, well, I pay a lot in taxes already, and we all pay a lot in property taxes. I'm a resident myself. I pay a fair amount in property taxes, as does every resident within the community here. And why don't those dollars that I already pay in my property taxes go to fix the roads? Well, the design of road funding within the state of Michigan, the funding actually comes from the gas taxes and the registrations on your vehicles. So through the Act 51, which is the legislation that developed the funding mechanism for road improvements, that is the design, that's where the revenue comes from. So property taxes do not go to pay for road improvements in the state of Michigan unless the community or the government entity, the taxing entity, the voters pass a millage to place property tax payments or property tax levies on their tax rolls based upon their property tax for specific road improvements. So there are currently no road taxes on the property taxes other than the 0.3 or 0.4 mils that's currently on the tax rolls for road maintenance only. And that just, as the chairman had mentioned, goes for some very important things, but is a very minor amount of money. So I don't live on the main road. Will the millage contribute to fix any local roads like mine? So this was a big concern of the DPS Commission. We wanted to make sure not only did we have a large infusion of money up front to do huge, drastic improvements to the major roads within the community. That's where we would bond up front, take out a loan, do a large number of road work in the beginning. But also we wanted to have money available after those loan payments are made annually to continue to do road work on a yearly basis. That way you see your millage working throughout the duration of the 15-year levy. So based upon the design that we have, we'll be able to go into neighborhoods and do work on an annual basis for concrete sectioning, repaving, crack sealing, all the things that are necessary for our roads, so that it's an ongoing program that lasts beyond that initial bond event. In addition, any improvements that we're able to get the county to do within that time period that we had planned on doing based upon our design, that money will then be redirected towards other projects that are necessary. For example, one of the projects we have on our list is East River Road in certain sections. If the county does come and do that work, that money will be reprogrammed for other roads. So, and definitely a priority is to get into the residential roads, because once again, the county has indicated they will not be going into the residential roads. If they're doing any paving work, it's only on the absolute major roads, and it'll be fairly minor at that level anyways. And then why are Grosio roads in such poor condition? You know, I think Grosio roads are obviously in bad shape, but you'll see roads in the state of Michigan are in bad shape. This is not just a Grosio issue. This is not just a Wayne County issue. This is a state issue. If you drive down Pennsylvania or Sibley or Eureka, go out by the airport, you'll see the roads out there are in horrible shape. It's really just a fact of the matter that there isn't enough, and there hasn't been enough investment in infrastructure to be able to keep up with the decay that we're seeing. You know, bridges haven't been touched in this state up until recently in 50 years. Roads fall into disrepair, don't get worked on for 30, 40 years. It's just a matter of a funding deficiency statewide, not just within our community. So that's just a very important point to make. Talked a little bit about the design of the millage earlier. Initially, we would bond, take out a loan for $6.5 million, front load a bunch of work within the first year and a half to make sure that residents see a big impact right off the bat on these roads. And that's not just about results, that's also about cost savings. I think everybody's aware inflation has just been brutal. Construction costs have gone through the roof, and all indications are that those will continue. Meanwhile, our roads continue to deteriorate. Every year that goes by that work is not done on them, the cost to repair, replace, increases because the deterioration goes further and further and deeper into that road bed, to the point where if you don't do preventative maintenance or you don't do preventative repair, it ends up turning into a full replacement. So we have certain roads on our list that we've identified if they aren't done right up front, they become much more severe and costly repair or replacement into the future. So that was taken into consideration. There is a project list that's provided here. I know it was covered in the video, but for next year the proposal was to start with East River Road, Horse Mill to Manchester. Once again, the county looks to be doing some work on East River Road, so if that ends up coming to fruition, we'll transition some of that work over to a different road scope, or potentially pull up one of these summer 2024 construction season projects up into the summer of 2023. So summer 2023, in addition, East River Road is going to be Bellevue, Meridian to East River Road. Summer 2024, East River south of Grow, West River Road north of Church, Ferry Road, Meridian to Park Lane, Church to Horse Mill, and then additional proposed road surface improvements include South Point, Grow Road, and sections of East River Road that were previously chip sealed. Once again, this is the front-loaded work. This schedule or these list of roads is subject to change, but then moving forward after these initial 2 years, there would be work ongoing throughout the duration of the 15-year millage levy. So this isn't the end-all be-all to the projects that we'll be doing with these funds. As is mentioned earlier, once again, Meridian Road will be done by the county. They've committed to repaving Meridian between 2023 and 2025. Meridian Road Bridge will be replaced next spring, and then after that they'll pave, I think the first section is Parkway to Island, and then they will move in 2 additional years all the way to Bridge Road. So that is the plan for Meridian Road. With the county doing Meridian Road, it gave us the ability to be able to transition some of those dollars off of Meridian Road and spend them elsewhere. So once again, a good example of if the county comes in, and we will always be petitioning and encouraging them to spend money within the community, we can then transition those dollars into other areas that are needed for repair. Grosio has been in conversation with Wayne County, and once again, they have indicated that there are no plans to address any of our residential roads. If you live on Chatham, if you live on Swan Island, if you live HCL Jackson or Knutson, any of those areas, the county will not be coming into those areas and doing work. These funds would allow us the ability to be able to go in there and do sectioning and replace roads that sometimes, in some cases, haven't been touched since the 60s. Although they're still in good shape, we want to continue to make sure that they stay in good shape, and these funds would be utilized for that purpose. Groseal Township, I think we all expect to have good roads. All residents expect that. And the reality of it is to keep these roads in the condition that the residents basically expect, we need to have some community investment to be able to achieve and support the roads at that level. So I don't think the county alone is not going to be able to do that for us. There's just not enough funding coming from the state, and it's not a reality. And this is not dissimilar from other communities. And in a lot of the communities that are listed on here, Riverview and Allen Park specifically, are cities, and their roads are owned by them. And I obviously, with them owning them, maybe a millage is a little bit easier to sell. But what this really emphasizes is that these communities, Riverview and Allen Park, they get their Act 51 dollars, no different than Wayne County gets the Act 51 dollars. The fact of the matter is they're going out for local millages because the Act 51 dollars are not enough to keep their roads in the conditions that their residents expect. And that's why they have millages, 2.73 mills for 10 years in Riverview, 1.9 mills for 10 years in Allen Park. And last on the list there is Canton Township. Canton Township has a similar road structure to us. Owned by the county, they have 1.45 mills to be able to keep their roads in the condition that their residents expect. So this is not a question, this millage question is not something that's out of the ordinary for communities like us and also other communities that have alternative sources of funding, i.e. the Act 51 dollars they get being cities. So in saying that, that concludes my presentation. I know I've taken a lot of time talking about this, and I think that the purpose of this meeting is to let the residents ask questions and get some answers to their questions. So with that, I will cede the podium.
Thank you for the presentation, Derek. So I'm going to invite people to come up to the podium, and all I'm going to ask you is state your name and the street you live in. You don't have to give your address, just the street. So whoever wants to approach the bench, please feel free to do so.
Derek, how do you turn this on so that they can see it in front? And I'll read off. I'm John Young.
John?
28285 Chatham, the same street that I believe that Derek lives on. Is that legible to you up front or not? Okay, that's better. Okay. So the premise of what we've seen so far, Derek, by the way, to you and the DPS Commission, the Township Board, great job in doing what you've done so far. I'm going to approach this from a little different angle.
Okay.
A little different angle in that I'm going to look at funding sources outside of what we currently experience. Since the real issue with Wayne County is that they are not willing to share their money that they get with us. And that is, they get roughly 39.1% funding, as does the state. All counties, all state get those fundings. Cities and townships normally get 21.8%, which would be us if we chose to be a city or a village, either one. We get, as a township, zero, absolutely nothing. We have to rely on the county for everything they are willing to supply to us. With that, the state currently gets funding of about 18 cents per gallon of federal taxes. The federal government gets about 17 or 18 cents in federal taxes. And the state currently gets 6 cents per gallon, or 6 cents per dollar, in sales tax on that money, totaling about 61 cents per gallon that we pay in gasoline taxes. Ohio is less, Wisconsin is less, other places are all the way around us pay less road tax than we pay. Ohio has toll roads, we have a toll bridge. During the bridge breakdown that was maintained, supposedly inspected, maintained, operated by Wayne County of the Groseal Free Bridge, as we call it, wasn't really free at all. We ended up paying about $100 per household for every month that we crossed that bridge. And we crossed that bridge for 6 months more than we actually needed to. So $100 a household, $1,500, $1,800 for the period that we were out of action with that bridge, having to go across the Pay Bridge. Nobody from Wayne County offered up a dime in reimbursement for those funds that we had to pay out of pocket for what we already paid in taxes. Doesn't seem fair. The issue at hand here is, are there other funding sources that we could pursue? Namely, can we become a city? What does it take to become a city? Can we become a village? What does it take to become a village by the state charter that would allow us to pick up the same funding as cities and villages already in existence within the system, so that we could get to 28.9% or whatever it is, 29.8% in funding that other people are able to take advantage of, rather than continually pay for maintaining our own roads that really belong to Wayne County. Because if we're asking them to pay for the roads, they're not willing to pay for those. They're not our roads, they're not our bridges, they're Wayne County's. And we're still paying for them year after year after year. The last funding proposal that went through was like, what, 40 years ago? Last upgrades in the road, 40 years ago? And we're still paying for them? That doesn't make sense. Shouldn't make sense to you. It certainly doesn't to me. Anyway, we are a city, our township, of 10.44 square miles according to the telephone directory that we all get. We have approximately 10,150 some odd people that live on this island. That gives us about 900 plus population for each square mile. That's well over the threshold that would require us, or we would be required to meet if we were a city or a village. So we're well over the threshold. I would like you all to read from, if you can still read it at the bottom here, Michigan cities with similar populations to Groseal: Melvindale, East Grand Rapids, Big Rapids, Alpena, Grand Haven, Farmington, Cadillac, Beverly Hills Village, Benton Harbor, Marysville, Flat Rock, Ecorse, Howell, Grosse Pointe Farms, Alma, Plymouth, Charlotte, Lapeer, Saline, Albion. All these cities, all these villages have population densities very close to ours, some at 10,500, some at 9,972, smaller ones. The question is before you, should we not explore what it would take for us to become a village or a city so that we could qualify for the same tax benefits that would rejuvenate our roads, fix our roads, maintain our roads, and not have to do it on our own tax money year after year after year? That's my question.
Well, John, it's a good question. It's a loaded question. It's a very complex question. And the first question you raise is, should we consider incorporating as a municipality,
Yes.
a city or a village? I don't know how long that issue would take, or whether the people would be inclined to do that, because it raises a whole bunch of other issues, mostly regarding taxes.
I agree with that. I'm asking you, the township DPS, the city council, the board, to say, look, what benefit is there for us to remain a township and to continue to pay what Wayne County should be taking care of, or what the state should be helping us with, that we're not taking advantage of? Why should we be beholden to them? We know what kind of things they do. The bridge sat there for 18 damn months to fix our damn roads, right? And nobody's thrown a coat of paint on it. How long before they're going to say, oh God, we need to paint the road, we need to paint the bridge? The Meridian Bridge that we're talking about, oh, they're talking about, well, we're going to repair the road and we're going to repair the bridge. In what order are you going to repair the road and repair the bridge? We're going to go through months and months of the bridge being fixed before the road's fixed, or the road fixed before the bridge is fixed. We have a tendency with Wayne County, with poor planning on their part and poor support from them, to get the job done here on Grosse Ile.
Well, it's a very complicated question. I mean, I think we all like what he had to say, but a couple of things that we know that from being involved in all this and talking to some other cities. We did a comparison, and it wasn't a precise comparison, but
Yes.
Farmington, the city of Farmington is about
Yes.
10,000 people.
I grew up there.
Oh, okay, Farmington, then you know it well. Do you know that they levy taxes, they go to the voters and ask for extra taxes because the money they get from the distribution of the gas and weight tax is not sufficient for them to improve the roads? That's one issue. And we would get maybe, based on the same mileage, within the range of 1.3 million, 1.5 million a year, and we'd have to maintain all the roads. But that's what they get about a year. But hear me out. But then, who takes over the bridges?
That's a question that you folks need to work out. Those bridges are all titled Wayne County Bridges. They opted to do that.
Oh, yeah.
At some point in time, yes, that decision has to be made, and that it has to be worked out. Why should why should we, Grosse Ile residents, be repairing Wayne County bridges when they haven't supported us
Oh, we
all
haven't.
this time?
We have not repaired the bridges that I'm aware of. I mean, that's all on the county.
We're requesting money from the residents to repair those bridges now.
We're requesting money from the residents to pave the roads that we don't believe the county will pave. The county said they will repair all the bridges. But I think you raised some good points, but it's a little bit beyond the scope of this commission. And-
I hope it's not. I think you folks ought to take it on. I think we all ought to take it on.
I think your comments, you're giving a lot of thought to it, and I appreciate it. It's very stimulating to think about this.
Can we get something put on the agenda for the next meetings with the township that says, let's address this issue? We really need to do this.
So, John, I understand what you're legitimately raising. That's not within the purview or responsibility. We're an advisory commission dealing with specific things, and the whole question of incorporating as a municipality is not something that we've even thought about. But I understand what you're saying.
So can you get back to me or to somebody and say, whose responsibility is that? We need to know that.
Township boards.
Well, then, let's get with the township board and put it on their plate and say, look, folks, we need to address this.
This could take,
I don't care if it
municipalities have
takes-
gone through, it might take 3 years, 4 years, who knows?
But we'll be well into a proposal. My last sentence in here is, let's try and get this on the agenda with the township board so that they can address it before we put the proposal before the public again, and fail again to get a job done that really needs to be done.
Hear you. Okay, thank you. Who's next? You know what, you're welcome to come and speak. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Tim Morris. And that's Magnolia Lane. Magnolia Lane is up by Thoroughfare North End between, it connects Thoroughfare to Waterview. And at Waterview and Park Lane there is where you can come in to get to my road. And that bridge has been closed for over 3 years now. And we're on a gravel road. I extended my road off of Waterview, it was like 22 years ago. And I wanted to put in a dead-end road. The people that lived on Waterview didn't want me to live there because they liked their dead-end road. So we tried to just do a dead-end road, but the fire department wouldn't allow it. They wanted for emergency purposes, for us to connect it to thoroughfare to make easier access. But now, you know, since that bridge is closed, the traffic has increased significantly. I call Derek now and then because of the dust on the road. You know, there's a lot of increased traffic, especially those FedEx, Amazon, UPS, you know, all of that has increased since COVID because everybody's getting stuff delivered. A lot of the landscaping guys, they all cut through there. So the dust is a big problem. And since that bridge isn't going to be fixed, I mean, it's not even on any of these, the paperwork here. I'm wondering if there's anything that we could do, or you guys could do to help our neighbors. There's like 7 of us that, you know, do have issues with the dust. I mean, it's bad. Like, I think they did it last time was in July, and I don't think they're planning on doing it till next summer. And it's already bad again, you know. So, I mean, if they're not going to fix that bridge, what's the, you know, what's the, you know.
Tim,
Yeah.
well, as far as the bridge, it's out of our control.
Yeah.
But as far as the dust is, if it's a concern for you now, we'll ask our staff to look at it.
Okay. Yeah, because all of our neighbors are in on it with me. It's just that, you know, we don't know, does anybody have any idea when they're even thinking of addressing that bridge, what they're planning on doing? Because
I don't think we really know, but
You're talking about the Park Lane Bridge.
yeah, because it's, and I'm told too, a lot of people Google, like if they're going to Google to go to some address from Bridge Road over to Park Lane.
Yeah.
It doesn't even show it's a dead end, so there's a lot of traffic. For some reason, they're cutting through, you know, because they get there as a dead end.
So it's no surprise that that bridge is a low priority for Wayne County because there's alternative routes around it, which we're experiencing that.
Yeah, I mean, if I wouldn't have extended that road, there wouldn't have been.
Right.
But, you know,
So, as far as when they determine what their priorities are, that's kind of down on the list. But we did have a conversation with them probably about a month or so ago, and did get a letter from them where they had submitted for some funding, some state or federal funding to assist with the replacement of that bridge. And part of that application was to commit themselves to a 20% grant share match. And we received proof of that letter of commitment from the county to the program that they would commit the 20% should the other 80% come from the state or federal sources. So we are aware that the county is working to try to get that replaced. They, I think, were standing idle for a bit just because it was lower on their priority list, but this recently came up within the past 2 months. I can't tell you when that is going to be replaced, but I can tell you the county has been making some effort to try to find funding sources, as well as committing some of their own funds to getting it replaced. More efforts than I think I've seen in the past couple of years. So probably doesn't answer your question or give you the exact answer you're looking for, but they are making more progress on trying to figure out how to replace that. So
yeah, well, that bridge is, you know, was a very nice bridge when it was built, and the way it's deteriorated is terrible. You know, for Grosse Ile, that was probably one of the most beautiful bridges around here, and it's being actually vandalized right now. There's people have painted all over it. It's crumbling very bad. I think they're actually breaking, you know, going there at night and busting it up or something. They stole the brass or bronze plaques off of it. Yeah, I mean, it's bad. So
it was built in the 30s.
yeah. But anyways,
We'll look into the dust on your street.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, Tim. All right, anybody else? Who else would like to speak? Brian?
I'm Brian Loftus, live on Broadhead Road. I'm one of the gravel roads that I much appreciate the dust sealing that the township does provide. Having been township supervisor for 12 years, I mean, the roads has always been an issue, and there's, just fill in a couple blanks here. Excuse me. Derek mentions a couple of Act 51. Just if you want to do any research, Act 51 is Public Act 51 of 1951, which was an amendment of the 1932 McNitt Act. McNitt was a state senator, and at that time, Michigan started taking the funds away from townships and giving to the counties so that as you drove 6 miles, the road condition didn't change every 6 miles, which is usually the dimension of a township other than the political townships. So if you want to research how that happened, it's you can look at the Public Act 51 in 1951. The question of becoming a city, I've asked that, people have asked me that, and when I've brought it up, the response I got is, you just want to tax us more. I can't make that up. That was the response I got. You just want to tax us more. Cities have voter-approved millages, and some they can levy, so can we. The only one we have levied, we have a couple of judgment bonds, and then the allocated millage, which allows us to run part of the township. As a city, how much would we, now Derek or Dale and I researched this or checked into this a number of times. What funding did Gibraltar get as a city for their roads?
So prior to the amendment that happened probably, 3 years ago with the registration fees increasing by almost double, we were right around, prior to that, we were right around $250,000, $280,000 a year. After that amendment, it went up to about $450,000 per year, and that was a 3 square mile city. The equation is based upon population. It's based upon how many major and local road miles you have. We did do some research, and it was prior to rolling out the millage request, and it was estimated right around 1.2 million would be the annual levy or the annual amount that would be received for the roads that we have within the community here. And obviously, at $1.2 million, that's not a whole lot of money to repair.
It fixes half a bridge.
Yeah, and
You have to maintain the roads.
and the other issue is, then you become responsible for plowing and salting the roads, so then you have staff and equipment charges. And bridges, you don't get any additional money for any bridges. You get the same amount of road funding for a length of bridge as you do for a length of road on East River Road. So there is no formula to add additional funds for that without going to the critical bridge.
These are important things to consider because I think we have 12 or 13 internal bridges within the island.
Yeah, so if the community became responsible for those bridges, you would have to rely on federal and state funding. You would rely on the critical bridge program, which usually funds, or at least it did a couple of years ago, anywhere between 3 to 5 bridge replacements for the entire Southeast Michigan region. It's actually a larger region than just Southeast Michigan.
And considering we have no through traffic, we would be very low on the priority list.
And that is a challenge. So there isn't enough funding to go along. And I think we had talked about this earlier, not to beat a dead horse here, but what you end up seeing is a lot of communities, a lot of cities that do get these Act 51 dollars that have road millages because they find that the road funding from Act 51 just isn't significant enough to be able to support the road network at the level that the residents expect. And it's not, quite honestly, it's not that high of an expectation. They're not looking for, gold paved roads. What they're looking for is a road that is drivable. And you see that time and time again.
Evidence of that is what we portrayed earlier in Allen Park and Riverview, where they went to the voters and asked for millage.
And I think if you look
They
at
could fix their roads.
if you look at the majority of the cities in the state of Michigan, you're going to see the majority of them have some form of road millage that supplements their Act 51 allocations.
So anyway, the point being, becoming a city will not be the panacea to fix all our roads. The same problems will exist. There won't be enough dollars, and we'll still end up needing a mill. Other than the other constraints that becoming a city involves, I don't think the entire township can become a village. I don't think state law allows that. But to become a city, we're still going to need the dollars for the roads. And when we have those bridges that we own completely, you start at $2 million a bridge, and it just goes up from there. So everybody's saying, well, why don't we just become a city? That's not going to solve the issue. And I'll throw up one other little caveat on their 2018 that almost passed the millage for the combined water. A mailer went out to everybody about a week before the general election. The anonymous mailer, and was sent by Messenger Printing Service in Taylor, and
completely violation of Michigan's election laws, but because the author of the mail piece was not on it as required by Michigan law. I tried to contact the Secretary of State, numerous letters writing, and what they told me is, I said, I want to find out who produced this letter. I know who printed it because I called the Detroit Post Office, it was every door direct mail, and they told me who had the contract. So I tried to pin down the owner of Messenger Service. He says, nope, I guarantee anonymity. Good Lord, you're breaking the law. So I contacted the Secretary of State. Maybe the thought of going to jail might get his attention. And what the shoe clerk down in the Secretary of State's office said was, well, if you can tell me who produced it, we'll enforcement action against him. Dim bulb. I'm trying to find out who produced it so we can take enforcement action. So I'm throwing that out because you may see one of those letters again a week or so before the election.
I mean,
be advised.
thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Appreciate your support in the past.
And this is, you know, your property values go up when people can drive to your house. If you try to sell it and they're in a survival mode driving, you know, it just doesn't help your sales pitch. So thank you very much. Thanks for the
Okay, thank you for your comments. I see more people in the audience. You care to address the commission? No? Okay, anybody else? Sir? You're all set? All right, with that, then we'll close this part of the meeting, and we'll move on to our regular business. And I said earlier, you're all welcome to stay for our regular business, too. So, next item on the agenda, then, is we have the approval of the minutes from our August 9th meeting. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there support? Any questions on the minutes of August 9th? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying
Aye.
Aye.
approval. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we have vouchers for DPS commission activities. You've all had a chance to look at those. Is there any questions on those? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Is there support?
I'll support it.
Been moved and supported. I didn't hear anybody ask any questions. So with that, no further comments. All in favor of approving the vouchers indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The vouchers are approved. Next, we have a statement of revenues and expenditures in our water, sewer, and refuse funds for the first 5 months of this fiscal year. And this is just a report, and if there aren't any questions on it, we will just receive and file that report, prepared by the Finance Director and Treasurer. And finally, we have a Treasurer's report dated August that shows our balances in our various funds.
I make a motion, we approve the treasurer's report.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions on the Treasurer's report? If not, I'll indicate by saying aye for approval. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Treasurer's report's approved. Okay, now we are in, now we have on the agenda any public comment on any other topics on the agenda. Any other matters? Okay. If not, the next item is, it's a report from you, Ryan, on our wastewater treatment plant operations.
Hello, everyone. The equipment for primary number 1 will be delivered Wednesday. We're getting that, so that's good. And the bid for that, it was awarded to Veolia, as you know. That's good.
Do you have any idea, Ryan, when that's going to actually take place, the installation?
November, I believe, like November 6th. So
Okay.
Veolia will be ready too. So yeah.
Good.
The VFD removal replacement for EQ basin pumps 1 and 3, and the spare VFD for our raw sewage pump has gone out for advertisement with CE Rains, and that is due October 6th. And I've already forwarded all that on to contractors who I think that we use who are interested. So, yep.
Good.
Yeah. We've had a lot of low flows lately, not a lot of rain. So everything's kind of septic out there right now, but it is what it is.
Everything's septic, you said?
More, because if you don't have the rain,
Yeah.
then it's warmer out, but
Tougher for you to treat.
exactly, but we still are, so it's just that's really all I have for at the plant.
Curious, how's the bar screen, the adjustments made to the bar screen?
Working real well. Haven't had any issues in couple months now. So everything's working right. Yeah. So we're very happy with that. So
Any questions from the commission to Ryan?
Yeah, have you dynamited the elevator yet?
we've left it alone. Yeah, it's just it's locked out. So
Derek, you have any questions?
the
No, I
paperweight.
don't. I'll cover a couple items under the project status report, but
Have any
No,
other
I
comment?
haven't.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope.
Okay.
All I got.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for the update.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, with that, action items. Wastewater treatment plant painting. Derek?
we had budgeted $20,000 in this fiscal year to do some painting work at the wastewater treatment plant. We did end up doing a formal bid on this. We did only end up receiving one bid. It's actually a local company on Groseal here. This was one of the projects actually our intern worked on before she ended up going back to school. The bid that we did receive was from Gus Painting Service. Upon review of the overall bid, it's going to be the recommendation to go ahead and forego the RBC room painting component of the bid. So what's being recommended this evening is just the balance of the work less the RBC for a total of $9,065 plus a 25% contingency, making the total $11,897. And the purpose of that contingency is so that we have some available funding to go ahead and epoxy the floor in the garage area. We hadn't received at the date of the putting the meeting packet together an estimate from the contractor to do that epoxy floor in there.
This is the garage.
Garage. Yeah.
So, if I'm looking at page 2 of your report, so the price to prepare and paint the front panels on the front of the building is only $1,500?
Correct.
First reaction to that, because it's outside, and I assume it requires 2 coats, maybe there's not that many square feet of painting to take place, but that seems like a pretty good price.
It is. And then the windows, we're gonna replace all those windows out front because they're about to fall out. It looks like it. The seals are not really there, and we got an estimate on that. It was like $1,700 to replace all those windows.
They're at the top of those
Yeah,
panels?
exactly. And those are original windows, so we're just gonna replace those because it's probably just a smart thing to do.
And we've
Few are
already
broke, too.
authorized that, so they're moving
Yeah.
forward with that replacement.
Okay.
Yep.
And they will be just regular see-through windows? They're not going to be colored? I think they're,
Try to think
yeah,
what
the
they're gonna
windows
be.
that are up there now are colored.
They
Not all the same either.
will be like those where you can't see through them. Yeah. A gray, I think. Yeah. Frosted. Yeah.
Sun in.
Exactly. Yep. So they'll be like that. Yep.
That, and then the primary room, $4,750, is that what we're doing?
Correct.
$1,795.
Correct.
All right, so we're looking at approving the $9,000 plus the contingency, $11,897.81.
Correct.
I'll make the motion to move forward with the painting as outlined for a total cost of $11,897.81.
All right.
The fact is, why don't we just round it off to $12,000? Since we had the money budgeted, instead of an odd figure like that, gives you some latitude in contingencies. So $12,000 would be my motion, to do the painting of the items we outlined. Is there support? I made the motion.
Support.
Are there any questions?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman. Why are we foregoing the RBC room? Just because of the cost?
Yeah, we had 20,000 budgeted, and with that additional cost, it would be, obviously over what we budgeted. So the thought was maybe we do that next year, under next year's budget, so.
Okay.
And
The RBC room is not a very, number one, you can't spend much time in there, and from an aesthetic standpoint, paint in there would be more valuable if the paint, I think, provides protection. There's no real aesthetic value to it, and, so.
Now, that was the majority of the cost, too.
Correct.
Yeah.
So one thought I had is, just now, I had this thought. We budgeted the $20,000 because as we toured the plant prior year, we saw the need to paint several areas to clean some things up. But I know we're going to have construction going on, hopefully this winter starting. But I don't know to what extent the construction is going to take place within the confines of the current building. Is it going to be a lot?
Yeah, the construction that we're going to be doing really shouldn't, affect any kind of paint that we have going on right now. Number one, the final clarifier that's being added, that's all outside work. The pumps, the change outs, those shouldn't really impact any kind of painting work where it makes sense to do it afterwards or anything.
Here's the HVAC. So would this thought just occurred to me. Since we budgeted $20,000, the idea to clean things up, once the painters get in, should we budget the full amount? We're approving this $12,000, but should we allow Ryan to spend more money within the $20,000 budget if the painters, and he suggests we could make this look nice, because it hasn't been painted in, 30, 40 years, any painting in the inside.
Well, the preparation of the quote, basically what happened is, I think Jason did a tour with Katie and with, I think, a couple of the vendors to determine what they wanted to paint. And what was included in the proposal was, a scope of work that came from that tour. So I guess my suggestion would be, save the money, we'll develop another scope and move forward with that scope based upon another review of what our priorities are after the work is done. So we tried to lump all the priorities into this one that we felt were most immediate. And, to add additional things above and beyond that might be a little bit less planned than what we have here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a motion in front of us that was, who supported it? Who supported the motion for the $12,000?
David did.
David, you did. Okay. So that's the issue before us then, for the painting at the wastewater treatment plant. If there are no other questions, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So the motion carried. Next item. Approval of the maintenance cap overage at our wastewater treatment plant. Thanks for coming, Brian.
Thanks for hearing me out.
No, appreciate your comments. Derek?
Yes, I appreciate the fact that Ryan's still up there. Under our contract with Suez, or what is now Veolia, so I don't know if we want to make a modification to the action item as the commission moves along with this to reflect that it's actually Veolia now rather than Suez.
Sure, I think that's.
Under our contract, there is an automatic, through our monthly payments that we make, a $40,000 maintenance allowance that's built into our monthly payments. So whatever our contract is with Veolia, 40,000 of that total contract amount goes towards maintenance. Any maintenance that's incurred at the plant that is over and above, like parts, materials, and services that are necessary, above and beyond that $40,000, our agreement with Veolia says that we will, basically Veolia will pay that, but we reimburse them for that cost above and beyond 40,000. So we do basically a shore up or a settle up at a certain point in the year. It's usually the end of the summer, each year, and I believe it's stipulated in the contract to be that for the total amount that they spend above and beyond that $40,000 for that duration of time. This year, that total is $73,092.70, and we've budgeted $75,000 in this year's budget because we anticipate this expense annually.
This is something we do every year. Linda, you're new to this commission, but, and what it amounts to is, as they're operating the plant and all the pumps at our lift stations and whatnot, they need to run out and get bolts, nuts, parts. They need to hire our electrical contractors to come in and fix something that's broken. And I know that any larger amount, let's say 1,000 or 2,000, I think, Ryan, you talked to Derek about that.
Yes, I
So-
always let him know if it's anything that's probably over like
So
3,000.
you've all been to the plant, you've
Emergency
seen all the
stuff,
mechanical equipment we have there and how much of it there is to take care of. So that's what this covers. It allows them to keep operating and to go buy what they need to buy, get it. And these are generally small items. I've looked through this. Has everybody had a chance to look through it? Anybody care to make a motion for approval? So we can,
I'll move that we approve the cost overage beyond our $40,000 contract, and that we approve the payment of $73,092.70 to, what's the name of the new company?
Viola.
Viola.
And is there support? Support. All right, supported. Now, this is, just in case anybody's listening, this 75,000, we budget this. So it's budgeted, this overage. We anticipate there's this kind of an overage. So it's not that we're running over our budget. This is a budgeted amount, and we're just approving the list of expenditures for the prior year. Okay? Are there any other questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we have, you got a busy meeting here. Now we have the addition of the additional comment, which was approved by the Township Board last night, and it was done that way because we want to get moving on this. And our engineers took bids, and there were 2 bids submitted, and they were hugely separate and wide apart. Derek and Ryan, I'll let you take it from here.
As the chairman had mentioned, number one, this was approved by the board last night, and we did it because we want to get it moving. We would normally take this to the DPS commission and then take it to the township board, but the township board will not be having their meeting on September 26th, so it would have had to wait till the October meeting, and we didn't want to wait that long. So this is just more or less like an approval after the fact, after the board has already okayed this. There was an engineer's recommendation for the approval of this. They vetted the bids to make sure that they are accurate and complete. Just to refresh your memory, we rebuilt primary clarifiers 2 and 3, correct, last year,
Right.
as well as final clarifiers 1 and 2, the 2 outside units. The only remaining clarifier that hadn't been rebuilt was tank number 3, correct?
Exactly.
Tank number 3. So that's the one that we bought equipment for a couple of months ago. That equipment's going to be delivered tomorrow, as Ryan had mentioned. That was under the same arrangement, sole source, for the equipment as the other clarifiers were handled. The installation is the component to that project that we actually bid both last year and then this year as well, with Veolia coming in as the low bid. There is a substantial difference between the two. As I explained to the Township Board last night, Veolia is a very reputable company. Matter of fact, I think they're the largest wastewater operator, vendor in the entire world. So they are very capable, knowledgeable, and comfortable doing this type of work, so there's no concerns there. Raines has a recommendation that was included with the action item, so they went through the bid numbers, and they have no concerns about the company, the price they put it on, and their ability to do the work. So that's all I have.
Yeah, and as far as this commission, we were all there and witnessed the actual installation of the equipment and the other 2 clarifiers last year. And So we planned to buy the equipment, which we did
We already
couple
have
months
it.
ago, and then bid out the installation. My only speculation on the installation, the wide difference in the two bids, is that that might have just been a plug bid that another company put in, didn't really want the work, but if they got it, because it's not the most desirable work, you know.
Nope.
But it's in the confined area, the lower level of the intake at the wastewater treatment plant. I would call it the basement, but it's a real deep basement, and but it's very impressive work to be done. So, we didn't make a motion yet, did we? Or did we? Did
No.
you make a motion? Anybody care to make a motion to approve the bid of Veolia at a cost of $73,686.50 with a 10% contingency for a total of $81,055.15 to rebuild or reinstall the primary clarifier tank number 1.
I will make that motion.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Schmidtke moved and Bill supported. Are there any other questions? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Derek?
Real quick, my manager's report. I know it's been a longer evening, so I'll try to go through this as quickly as possible. 12.863% is currently what we're at. Ryan had mentioned we do have some fairly low flows at the plant. You'll see in June we were at 39.46% of water at the plant that was not potable water that entered the system. So you can see when we have low flows like that, you'll see a fairly low number there relative to maybe some more of our wet season. So we do have a substantial differential between the gallons purchased and the gallons billed, just because we'll catch up in the upcoming months based upon the billing cycles. So that's the lost water report. Any questions? If not, onto the project status report. I won't speak too much about the water main project because that's all but complete. Sanitary sewers system, phase 4 is completed or near to be complete, except for some inaccessible sections. I believe they're going to be starting the cleaning in the interceptor that runs through the golf course within the next week or two. So that will be in progress, and hopefully we'll have that done within a week or two. So that's worth noting because that is a big project and a big item that we need to get taken care of. So that's good that the contractor will be doing that here fairly shortly. Speaking of the wastewater treatment plant, we have authorized primary and secondary sludge pumps to have those replaced. So my understanding and talking to Ryan as well as Rains that Kennedy Industries is just in the process of finalizing that. Is that correct, Ryan?
Working on the drawings right now. We had to look in with those pumps how if we were going to have them horizontal or vertical, and vertical works. It's less money too. But it's the way it will work with everything that's existing. So once Kennedy has all the specs for that, then we can order those pumps, which will take maybe 3 months till we have them on site.
Right,
Yep.
so there's no holdup from the township's end. It's just the contractor that was awarded the project that's working on it. If you recall, that was a sole source. I think their flight pump.
Full source for those pumps.
Yeah,
It's
Flight
who
and
we use.
Kennedy is the vendor in the area for that. At the township board meeting last night, the board acted to basically put the public notice out for the bonding for the basis of design for plan improvements, which basically that's all the ACO work that we have to do, including the HVAC. So that is steadily moving through its process. We're going out to bid this fall for that work. So I know that all of the entities, OHM, Charles Rains Company, the township's finance department, with the bonding, the bidding, all that is moving forward in one mass towards getting that work complete. So that'll be a very heavy lift over the next 18 months as we go through this process. So I'll just give you brief updates as to where we're going with that in that process, when the bids come in, when the bonding comes in, all that type of stuff. So it's all in process, and we're working towards, honoring our commitments to the ACO with the gracious passing of that millage that the residents provided. So just a quick update regarding that. Still working diligently on our asset management plan. So that's currently on process and in compliance with the state mandates as far as our progress, which involves the TVing and cleaning of the sanitary sewer system. As far as clarifier number 1, we've already talked about that this evening. Veolia was the contractor that we're going to use to install that. VFDs, if you recall, we talked about that last month on the EQ basin. Those are out for bid currently. I think, Ryan, you said those are due October 6th.
Yes.
So
Yep.
that'll be coming to you and the board for approval to award that contract, probably in our October meeting, and then to the township board, hopefully. If we can squeeze it in by the 10th, that would be preferred. As far as paving projects are concerned, we did go ahead and let Rains know that we had interest in doing the crack and joint sealing. We're going to piggyback on, I believe, Riverview's contract. I believe they're using Scadeller. Scadeller, I guess, is very backed up, so I'm not sure whether or not we're going to be able to squeeze the crack and joint sealing in yet this fall. We will see if we're able to do that. I know that Rains is really pressing them because there's, I think, 3 or 4 downriver communities that are partnering on that contract. So we're one of, I think, 4. So we're all chomping at the bit to get them in there to do the work. And then as far as the work over on West River Road, we've been talking about this forever as far as those drainage locations. That is actually ready to happen. So we're supposed to be doing some clearing this week, some ditching this week, and then start to actually rip up the road next week. So that's where we're at with West River Road. Are there any questions about the project list? Yes.
Well, not directly about the project list, but I've had some questions about the closure on Meridian that's going to take effect tomorrow, and I had no idea what that was for. Maybe it was brought up. Could you just comment on that to maybe what the public that might be listening?
Yeah, I spoke about it a little bit at the board meeting last night. Basically, there are 2 electrical feeds that come over to the island, I believe at Ruthmere over on West River Road. One of those 2 feeds is damaged. So DTE is going to be replacing the damaged feed, and just to make sure that there's redundancy as far as electrical service to the island. And I believe there's another set of services farther down on West River Road, closer towards West Shore. That feed comes across the golf course and then runs up Meridian and then joins the electrical grid right at the Douglas right-of-way. So to be able to connect that new feed in, they've got to close the road to open cut Meridian to run that line, or run a line across the street to connect it into the grid. So that's what that work is for. Initially, they hadn't indicated that they were going to have to close Meridian for that work, but I think the scope of work changed as recently as Friday, where instead of doing like a jack and bore or directional, they're actually going to do an open cut in that area, because I think my understanding is Wayne County is requiring a casing because it's going under the road. So to be able to adequately do the casing, they're going to, I think, tear the road up in that area and then put that in and then repave once they're complete. So probably more than what you wanted to know, but that's the nature of the work.
What, do we have a timeline on how long they'll take?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So starting Wednesday, so tomorrow at 9 a.m., and it should run no longer than 2 weeks.
Okay.
Hopefully shorter.
And
The bus garage has been notified, and we sent out a number of, Crows Hill code red notifications to residents. So there'll be detour signs posted out there and all that.
And quick question, there was that water main break on Swan Island Drive a while back.
Okay.
And is that scheduled to be repaved this year, or is it going to go through the winter before they've...
I'll have to check with John. How long ago was it, do you know?
Oh, good grief. Several weeks ago.
Okay.
I was
so-
out of town.
Yeah,
but,
usually they like to let them sit probably
Yeah, I know they
3
need to
months.
settle, and I was just curious whether it's on the list for this year.
I'll
or-
check with John and let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Where was that at, Phil?
Hmm?
Was it north or south?
South.
of the drive?
Yes.
Okay. Because I don't know if you guys have done anything for the north end?
Nothing yet, no. Nope, we're still talking about that,
I
but.
did talk.
Go ahead.
I did talk to the two other residents at the north end, and they've had no issues with their water.
Yeah, their taps are farther away from the end, like where Mr. Shepherd's tap is at. So I did talk to Derek about, I think, a very simple, cheap solution. But we'll have to work on that.
Yeah, we've had conversations, John and I, about that, and you know, we had expressed some of the concerns that we had to you, and I think that you had come up with another solution that we thought might work, so, yeah. Other questions?
All right, I see that we have two more items on.
Yeah, so November meeting will have to be rescheduled for Wednesday rather than our traditional Tuesday because of the election. The election group will be using this room for a variety of different items, so that'll be rescheduled, just advance notice. And then I just had this real quick placeholder on the agenda for this evening. Priority Waste has developed I believe it's they call it a CAD, Community Action Group, or CAG, Community Action Group, where they're getting membership from various communities that they service that get together like once a quarter or once a half, every 6 months or so, to talk about issues that concern recycling and waste hauling and things of that sort. So one of the things that did come up during that conversation, or during our most recent meeting, which was about a month and a half ago, was recycling and some of the issues that we have with recyclables blowing around out of our 18-gallon bins. And it sounds as if, and they followed up with me after that meeting, there are some grant opportunities out there as it relates to containers, 65-gallon containers. So I wanted to just bring it up real briefly to the commission, and we don't need to make a decision right now, but there is the possibility that there could be some grants available out there to fund the purchase of 65-gallon recyclable containers, the ones on wheels with the lids, if the township is interested in applying for that. And this is funding through a state program, and even could be expanded to include curbside carts for garbage as well, for traditional refuse. So I didn't want to proceed down the road too far unless there was interest from the DPS commission in researching it further, but it sounded like it was a definite possibility. Matter of fact, the folks at Priority had mentioned that it looks like Flint, who is a customer of Priority, is going to get a grant more than likely to fund recyclable containers for their entire, I think they have like 30,000 residences or something along those lines, to be able to provide containers for everybody in that community. So something to think about if we want to pursue that. I know containers come with some concern, whether, it's storage issues or it's the size of them, or the quantity of recyclables. How long would it take you to fill a 65-gallon container? How long is it sitting around for? But I know one of the concerns that we've had is the blowing around of recyclables, that results from the 18-gallon container, and it's sitting curbside on a windy day. So once again, just a thought. You don't have to give me an answer today, but.
Did we ever get the lids?
So I did approach them about reducing the shipping, and they were able to cut it down, I believe, from about $1,200 for the whole order down to about $1,000 for the whole order. So it wasn't a significant reduction, but they were able to adjust it down by about $200 on the shipping. So if that's fine by you guys, I'll proceed with that order. But it wasn't as much as I would have liked.
How many did we order?
Yeah, it was.
100?
Yeah, it was right around that.
Because I got a call into Mark, the foreman. It seems like yesterday, after they took my recyclables, my lid disappeared. Now, I don't know if the guy threw it in the garbage truck or if somebody stole it. Because what they would do is when we put it out there with a lid on it, they'd take the lid and toss it in my yard, and then they would drop the recyclable box in the road. So this time, the recyclable box was in the yard. But my son came out there and says, no lid. I think maybe the guy got tired of taking it off. I don't know. But I put it on there in case it's going to rain, so all that stuff's not soaking wet. I'll find out from Mark tomorrow.
All right.
Well, you know, I didn't raise the subject, but I wasn't gonna either. I watched the guys with the recyclable containers and even the garbage cans. And they're going lickety-split faster than they, I think, trying to be as fast as possible. And in some cases, they're leaving the recyclable containers in the roadway.
Mine is, it drove over it. I mean, I live on Church, so.
He just said it, and I was
Swan
gonna
the
take
same
pictures
way.
a week ago of them in the middle of the roadway. Now, I've mentioned this to John Keim before, and he supposedly mentioned it. But they need to, and I've watched them throw them. I mean, last week, a guy emptied it, and he just threw it. He's right there. All he's got to do is just drop it. I mean, he threw it and left the garbage can, and I went out and moved the garbage cans out of the roadway. They weren't mine. They were in, we're in the condominiums, but it is a bit of an issue. They don't have to move that quickly. I know that you have no control over that, but
Well, I mean, we can
if
mention.
you ever
the-
talk to Mark, he needs to make sure
We could mention
they-
the concerns of them for sure. I mean, that's not.
Bill,
Well, I
you
think,
don't,
go ahead.
you don't realize how many times I've called this Mark. I called him today, and I guess he was done working for the day, and I says, this is your pain in the rear end on Parkway. He said, oh, hi Les, how you doing? So he was busy doing something. I didn't get to talk to him, but he says, I'll talk to you tomorrow during business hours. He says, I'm off right now. I says, okay.
Yeah, they are pretty responsive when we.
But
Yeah, I
every
mean-
time they drop it in the road, I was
Alright,
calling them up.
right.
Yeah, and they have a fair number. I think they have a fair number of. They have a fair amount of turnover on their staff. So I think that there is reminders that have to occur
The problem.
to make sure that they're talking to their staff members that may be new about what issues exist, and so it doesn't hurt. We'll mention that to them tomorrow. So that's not a problem.
Yeah, I thank you. I think that's the right approach. I mean, it's probably a problem hiring people right now.
So
Yeah, but if, Derek, you weren't there, but when we went to interview the people at Priority, Vince, and I forget the primary person's name in charge, and when they took us out and showed us their operation, they emphasized that their drivers would put the cans back in place. They wouldn't be scattered all around. I mean, that was a big selling point when we signed up with them. And I know at the pickup place where my summer place is, they place the cans back on your property side by side. From the side of the road, they actually put them 2 or 3 feet back in on your property. And that's what they had told us they would be doing. And it maybe lasted that way for, a month or so, but it's been progressing downhill since. And I understand all the problems. They're having trouble getting people. They're expanding their business significantly, but I think it's worth mentioning,
That's a good point. And they picked up Flint, right?
they do have Flint.
And do they have Westland? I heard that.
I believe they do. Yeah.
Westland's 100,000
They do
people.
have Westland. Yep.
And we were the community that took a chance on them.
I think we were like the third.
Well, all they had was New Baltimore, if I remember right.
Well, and
Hamtramck
Hamtramck.
too.
Oh,
Hamtramck and then,
Right. So-
Hamtramck first, then New Baltimore, and us
And
about
us.
the same
And us.
time.
So I feel good about that they have performed for us, and they give us the best price. So these little things you'll work out.
Yes. So getting back to the original point, I don't know whether you guys have any interest in that. If it was, something that could be funded through a grant. Once again, give it some thought. I don't want to pursue it unless there is support for it, but they sounded like they were fairly optimistic that we could, be able to fund that, so.
I think at some point, we still are going to have to address the total recycling situation. The cost of it versus how much of it just gets thrown in the landfill, the education of the population, and so forth and so on. Because as I see it right now, it's a feel-good program. People think they're doing something, but in reality, you talk to the recycling providers and what have you, they will tell you most of it all is going right in the landfill because of contamination, cross-mixing, products that aren't acceptable, so forth and so on. And like I've always said, and this is just as much for the public if anybody's listening, recycling isn't easy. You have to work at it. It's not just a matter of taking stuff, I'm just going to do something good, I'm going to throw it in the recycling. You have to work at it. You have to take labels off. You have to take seals off. You have to take plastic caps off. There's a lot to be done. Just because something says this is recyclable, it doesn't mean you just throw it in the recycling bin. You may have to take off the outside seal label of a Gatorade bottle, the little orange piece that stays on after you take off the cap. You have to actually put it in as a clear bottle for it to be recyclable. And yet, it's work.
Yeah, and the industry's changing a little bit too, even since the last time when we first entered into the contract with them. Dave, you can probably speak a little bit to this, but in that community action group or whatever they're referring to it, they did have a speaker come in that spoke about recyclables, and there is a little bit of a change in the industry. The commodity is starting to increase in value, so it sounds like maybe that there's a little bit of an improvement in the combined waste stream and how much actually is usable now because the economies, have changed as compared to 3-4 years ago where it had very little value. And I don't know if that's a result of inflation or whatever the result is, or markets have opened up, but it always is changing. And we got to keep track of, what makes sense for us on an often basis to make sure we're doing what we should be doing with it. So,
Well, maybe somebody in this country figured out, hey, we can make some money off this instead of pushing it all off to the Chinese. And then they shipped it back and really bent us over.
Well, they quit taking it too.
Yeah.
And I think it was Westland that, wasn't it a year or two ago, they dropped the recycling program because they couldn't afford it any longer.
Well, wasn't Trenton just started one, I believe.
They-
And how is our glass bottle thing going?
Good. We have
That's working good.
really good participation. Some of
Been
the
over
issues
there
that
where
we
I
had
couldn't
in the
put
onset
bottles in.
kind of cleaned themselves up.
I've seen a lot of people go by using it.
I've been over there last when there was no room to put a bottle in.
And we empty it probably every
Including mine.
2.5, 3 weeks.
Had to come back.
A little bit more than about 2 to 2.5 weeks during the summer, and maybe every month or every 3 weeks during the winter time. So it gets a lot of use. And people appreciate it, I think. So.
We'll end this discussion shortly, but the other day I was at Kroger's and I saw a lady carrying a bundle of Kroger's bags. I didn't think they were recyclable. So Kroger's must have a place you can bring all the used bags, and they recycle them. But I always thought those, because I see them in the blue bins all the time.
I don't
No,
see
they
that
are
on
as
the
a-
island. That's,
Yeah.
I wish they would have something real prominent, because those bags just grow,
But
Someplace to
they're
put 'em.
recyclable if they're bundled and by them. They will do it in bulk, but just
Just,
general recycling in your
And I
recycling
see
bin,
the
they'll
blue
just
bins,
get
there's,
thrown
these bags are just thrown in
away.
there.
Yeah.
They're not
They have to be
recyclable.
taken up to Kroger. and-
So I guess back to my original question, would there be any kind of level of support about recyclable containers with wheels and lids if we could get it funded through a grant?
From a personal standpoint, I'd like to see it.
Is there
Those things take so long to fill them up, it's unbelievable.
do it every other week, like pick up every
Yeah.
other week?
Yeah.
Why do you need to fill them up?
Well, that's true.
I mean, I put my blue container out every week, even if there's only 2 days worth because we've been out of town. I mean, and I know in Ohio they have those where my son lives, and they collect them. They collect the recyclable every other week.
Well, and that was an option under our quote.
With the large containers.
When we went to bid, we had a every other week option. The savings wasn't significant because I think
Often forget which week it is, and
yeah, and logistically it kind of was a mess, and then it ends up being overflowing stuff that causes more problems. But if you went to a 65-gallon container, maybe it makes more sense. I don't know, but okay. So, is there any opposition to looking further into that? And if not, I can.
Well, I think when it comes back to us, then the question's going to be, would it be mandatory?
Yeah, right. And I would have a hard time advocating for it if it was mandatory, because I've seen that be a problem before. But
Yeah, and some people, you can drive through the neighborhoods that people that do have them, and they're outside, whereas most people keep their blue recycling inside their garage, at least if they have a garage, or out of sight. So that could be an issue, but if you want to pursue it, but I would add this caveat, if we were going to do it on a large-scale basis and try to promote it, why wouldn't we go to every other week collection?
Yeah, if we're going to use the large containers.
Just twice a month, maybe, not even other week, twice a month. Then we might save some money, because
Twice a month would get confusing because of 5-week months, and
How
I would think
about,
every other week would be easy to keep up
or
with.
every other week, or even once a month? I mean, then you get into, they'd be overflowing, right?
Yeah, I think overflowing with the
fall season.
once.
But we'd have to figure that out, Phil, you raise a good
Yeah,
point. So every other week, maybe, but how do you know people are going to lose track of which week is which, and it's going to be a mess.
we can have that conversation if the 65-gallon.
This is going to be a mess.
Reality, I guess.
You know what the old saying is, don't you?
What?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That concludes my report for this evening.
Oh, thank you very much. No more trash talk.
All right, sounds good.
The chairman has no report. Lara, you have anything? Dave?
No.
Phil?
Nothing more.
Linda? And last but not least, Les?
The only thing is I'll let you guys know what happened to my lid when I find out.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion that we adjourn this meeting at 8:42.
I support that. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.